First story, by John Smith. It was the summer of 2023, and my friends and I were looking for an adventure. We lived in a small town in upstate New York, surrounded by dense forests and wilderness. One evening, as we sat around a campfire, someone suggested we explore the creepy abandoned house deep in the woods that everyone talked about. The house was located about 20 miles from our town, nestled in the heart of a dense forest. Rumors had it that it was once owned by a reclusive family who had disappeared without a trace. Over the years, the place had gained a sinister reputation, and it was said that strange things happened there. My friends Sarah, Mike, and Emily, and I decided to make the trip the following weekend. Armed with flashlights, we set out on a sunny Saturday morning. The hike was long and challenging, but our excitement pushed us forward. As we approached the abandoned house, a sense of foreboding washed over us. The building looked like it was straight out of a horror movie. The windows were shattered, the roof had caved in at places, and the wooden walls were covered in moss and ivy. We cautiously entered the house, our flashlights cutting through the thick darkness. The air inside was damp and filled with an unpleasant musty odor. The creaking floorboards beneath our feet added to the eerie atmosphere. It felt as if the walls held ancient secrets. As we explored the ground floor, we stumbled upon old furniture, dusty books, and faded family photographs. It was clear that this house had been abandoned for decades. We couldn't help but wonder what had happened to its inhabitants. The real terror began when we made our way to the upper floor. Sarah was the first to notice it, a faint whisper coming from one of the rooms. We froze, our flashlights trembling in our hands. The whisper grew louder, yet we couldn't make out the words. It sounded like someone was muttering to themselves. Heart pounding, we followed the sound down a narrow hallway. The room it emanated from had a cracked door that hung on one hinge. Slowly, we pushed it open, revealing a sight that sent shivers down our spines. There, sitting in the corner of the room, was a man. He was hunched over, his back to us, his disheveled hair obscuring his face. He was muttering incomprehensibly, and it was clear he hadn't noticed our presence. We exchanged terrified glances and considered leaving, but the fear had us rooted to the spot. As we watched, the man suddenly stopped muttering and slowly turned his head toward us. His eyes were empty, devoid of any sanity, and his face was twisted into a grotesque smile. In that horrifying moment, we knew we had to run. We bolted out of the room and raced down the rickety stairs, the man's laughter echoing behind us. Our footsteps pounded through the house as we desperately sought the exit. As we burst out into the sunlight, we didn't look back. We sprinted through the woods, never stopping until we reached our campsite, gasping for breath. We never spoke of that day again, but the memory of the terrifying man in the abandoned house haunted our dreams for years to come. Second story, by Emma Johnson. In the summer of 2023, my friends and I decided to embark on a camping trip to the remote Appalachian Mountains in Tennessee. We were craving adventure and escape from our mundane lives, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity. Our group consisted of 4, me, Mark, Lisa, and Josh. We set out with our camping gear and food supplies, ready for a weekend of hiking and relaxation. The Appalachian Trail was our playground, and we aimed to lose ourselves in the wilderness. Little did we know that our journey would take a terrifying turn. On the second day of our hike, as we ventured deeper into the forest, we stumbled upon an old, dilapidated cabin. It was isolated, miles away from any civilization, and its presence sent chills down our spines. The cabin looked like it had been abandoned for decades, with faded paint and a sagging roof. Curiosity got the best of us, and we decided to explore the eerie structure. As we entered the cabin, we were met with a thick layer of dust and cobwebs. It was clear that no one had lived here for a very long time. The main room contained a rusty, wood-burning stove, a creaky rocking chair, and an old, moth-eaten rug. The walls were adorned with faded family photos, depicting a happier time long past. But what sent shivers down our spines were the strange symbols and drawings etched onto the walls, like a cryptic language we couldn't decipher. We decided to spend the night in the cabin, thinking it would add a unique twist to our camping adventure. As night fell and we huddled around a flickering campfire inside, strange sounds filled the cabin, whispers that seemed to come from the very walls themselves. We dismissed it as the wind or our imagination playing tricks on us, but unease settled in our hearts. That unease turned into full-blown terror when, in the middle of the night, we heard footsteps outside the cabin. Heavy, deliberate footsteps that drew closer and closer. Panic set in as we realized that we were not alone in this desolate place. Josh grabbed a flashlight, and we gathered together, our hearts pounding as the footsteps grew louder. Suddenly, a shadow passed by the cabin's window, and we saw a glimpse of someone, or something, standing just outside. It was a figure cloaked in darkness, its face hidden beneath a tattered hood. We held our breath as it approached the door, its bony fingers scraping against the wood. The door creaked open slowly, revealing the intruder's ghastly face. Hollow eyes stared at us, devoid of any humanity. Without a word, we bolted from the cabin, leaving behind our belongings and our fear. We ran through the forest, guided only by our flashlights, until we reached a ranger station and alerted the authorities. The authorities searched the cabin and found no trace of the mysterious intruder. We were left with unanswered questions and a sense of dread that still lingers. To this day, we wonder who or what had taken up residence in that abandoned cabin in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains. Third story, by David Turner. It was the summer of 2023, and I had decided to embark on a solo hiking adventure in the Black Forest of Germany. The dense, ancient woods held a certain allure, and I relished the idea of losing myself in nature. Little did I know that this journey would lead me to a horrifying encounter. I started my hike early one morning, equipped with a backpack filled with essentials and a detailed map of the forest. The lush greenery and towering trees surrounded me as I ventured deeper into the woods. The dense canopy overhead blocked out the sun, casting eerie shadows on the forest floor. As the day wore on, I realized that I had strayed from the marked trail. Panic started to creep in as I walked in circles, unable to find my way back. The forest seemed to shift and change, its natural beauty now feeling oppressive and sinister. As evening approached, I stumbled upon an abandoned house hidden deep within the forest. The building looked like it had been forgotten by time, with crumbling walls and shattered windows. My options were limited, and with darkness closing in, I decided to seek shelter in the decrepit structure. Inside the house, the air was heavy with the musty scent of decay. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional rustling of leaves outside. I set up a makeshift camp in one of the rooms, using my flashlight to navigate the darkness. Sometime during the night, I was awakened by the distant sound of chanting. I listened carefully, trying to discern its source. It seemed to be coming from somewhere within the house. Fear gnawed at my gut as I crept through the darkness, following the eerie chorus. The chanting led me to a room on the ground floor, and what I saw there froze me in my tracks. A group of people, dressed in tattered robes, stood in a circle. In the center of the circle lay an old, weathered book and a collection of strange, ancient-looking artifacts. Their chanting grew louder and more frenzied as they performed a ritual that I couldn't comprehend. The room was bathed in an eerie, flickering light from a circle of candles that surrounded them. Their faces were twisted in ecstasy, their eyes filled with an unholy fervor. I watched in horror as they raised a dagger and made a deep incision on their palms, letting their blood drip onto the book. The room seemed to pulse with malevolent energy, and the air grew thick with dread. I knew I had to escape, but fear had rooted me to the spot. Just as the ritual reached its climax, one of the participants turned and locked eyes with me. In that moment, the chanting stopped, and a chilling silence filled the room. They knew I was there, and I knew they were capable of unspeakable things. With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I turned and fled from the house, leaving behind the nightmarish scene. I ran blindly through the forest, guided only by the dim light of my flashlight. Hours later, I stumbled upon a hiking trail and was eventually rescued by a search party. To this day, I cannot forget the disturbing encounter in the Black Forest. I can only wonder what kind of ritualistic horrors were taking place in that abandoned house, deep within the heart of the ancient woods. Thank you for sticking with us through the whole video. Also, I recommend you this video you see on screen, one of the scariest on my channel. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. This helps me bring you more thrilling content every day. If this video sent shivers down your spine, let me know in the comments.